Detective Colin Mercer would later say a kitchen can swallow the right minute and hand back only the hum of its own machines. On the linoleum off West 75th Street, the refrigerator motor droned. Citrus cleaner hung in the air, and a torn blouse lay half-folded beneath a quilt dragged from the couch, while safety glass glittered like frost under the table lamp. April 3rd, 1997, Naperville, Illinois. Until DNA finally broke the silence and gave investigators a name to chase. But before we dive into this case, I'm curious. What true crime stories have you heard about in your town? And when did they happen? Drop it in the comments below. Let's see how many local mysteries are still out there. Block 1. Route and initial scene. Hannah Whitmore, 32, left a voicemail at about 7:11 a.m. to cancel a client coffee, citing a headache. At about 7:35 a.m., her husband, Evan, left for the hospital foundation where he worked in communications, routine weekday schedule. A parcel courier noted the garage standing open at about 10:58 a.m. and logged a scan at 11:02 on the front stoop. A neighbor walking a terrier heard a woman raise her voice once inside the noon band, then 3 heavy thuds spaced apart, then silence. Lawn sprinklers along the block ticked on at exactly 12 o'clock. At about 5:52 p.m., the husband reported the front door sitting on the latch and called it in. The working window is about 11:43 to 11:55. Minutes, not hours. Kitchen and living room tableau. Backslider shattered inward across tile. Bright pellets under the breakfast chairs and caught in the floor vent. A quilted throw pulled from the sofa and draped where it did not belong. Under it, a torn blouse with buttons skittered wide. A belt tugged half through its loop, and defensive scrapes on the backs of the hands. On the left shoulder, a clear curved bite with lividity halo. A cotton swab was taken from the bite and sealed. On the TV stand, electronics unplugged and stacked as if posed to move. In the bedroom, a jewelry tray sat untouched. An open purse on the hall table showed cash and cards in place. A mug on the counter left a dark ring, still warm at first entry. Perimeter artifacts. Patio. Glass glitter outside minimal compared to the kitchen spread. Slider latch twisted, but the frame shows no pry. Front jamb clean. Chain mount unbent. Only the latch set. Garage. Door track straight. No tool marks at the release. Hallway. Faint scuff arcs near the baseboard consistent with a heel dragged sideways. Bathroom sink. A small crescent of acrylic from a fingernail in the strainer. Found and not found. Scene density. Found physical. Saliva swab from the bite. Fingernail crescent and paired nail scrapings collected at autopsy. Torn blouse. Staged stack of unplugged electronics. Inward slider glass. Defensive injury. Found context. Parcel scan at 11:02. A single raised female voice, then 3 thuds around noon. Sprinklers ticking on schedule at 12:00. Discovery at 5:52 p.m. Not found. No broad drawer rummage, no jewelry loss, no forced pry at doors, no loud curb event, no foreign vehicle recalled in the band. The room reads brief contact and staging, not a burglary or a stranger's hunt. Witness pulse. Next door, Ms. Darnell noted the garage standing open before lunch and a silence after the thuds that felt wrong. The courier fixed his time to the handheld scan at 11:02. A jogger 2 blocks north marked sprinklers starting on the hour and no siren in the band. No one recalled a knock, a shout from the curb, or a running exit. Surface and illumination. Midday overcast, steady white light through the slider. Linoleum with a dull sheen, dustable to clean prints. Lamp near the couch humming at a low ballast note. Air held a detergent tang from morning wipe downs and a faint metallic thread near the slider frame. Immediate response. He photographed cardinal points, underlined the inward glass pattern, and logged the bite swab, the blouse, the nail scrapings, and the fingernail half moon from the sink. He dusted the unplugged TV and deck for ridge detail, swabbed the blouse collar and belt tongue, and sealed each in paper with date and initials. Biologicals moved to cold storage on the first night with an unbroken custody line. Chain of custody entries remained clean from scene to vault. Working window. Minutes, not hours. Between the courier's last presence and the noon sprinklers, about 11:43 to 11:55, holds enough time to enter, shape a false story, fight at close range, and leave without a street signature. Rule of 2. Anchors. Physical. A clear bite on the left shoulder with a sealed saliva swab, and nail scrapings with visible tissue. Context: a single female voice before the three thuds and staged electronics against a room that does not read theft. A still warm coffee ring, a quilt where it should not be, and a bite swabbed and sealed for the day the file would finally listen. Tape lines, bag numbers, and a red pencil brace around 12 narrow minutes on a clipboard. Outside, sprinklers clicked and stopped on schedule, while the refrigerator hummed to itself in the quiet room. Block 2. Assumptions versus evidence. Hot prowl burglary. What we would expect. Pry at a door, outward glass where entry is forced, drawers dumped, jewelry gone, a curbside hurry. What we have? No pry at the front, the chain mount unbent, jewelry untouched, electronics neatly stacked as if posed. The slider spread reads mostly inward into the kitchen, not a true breach pattern. The room argues staging, not theft. Attempted sexual assault. What we would expect. Prolonged struggle zones, clothing dispersed room to room, a flight path to the street, a noisy exit that neighbors clock. What we have? A quilt pulled where it did not belong, a blouse torn with buttons skittered wide, defensive scrapes, and a clear bite on the left shoulder. The tableau is close in and brief, then silence. The belt half through its loop beside stacked electronics reads performative more than chaotic. A stranger does not pause to shape a photograph. Random intruder through the slider. What we would expect. A crash neighbor's mark. Glass both ways with tracked footprints. Hurried contact. Valuables grabbed on exit. What we have? A single raised female voice. 3 spaced thuds around noon, then quiet. No one logs a running exit. The slider latch is twisted without tool scarring. The pattern fits glass broken after contact to sell a story more than an entry that started the event. Opportunistic car theft that escalated. What we would expect. Quick entry to keys, minimal contact, a drive-off with curb noise, some street-level signature. What we have? A close fight, a bite, defensive injury, and the family car remaining in the garage. A car thief does not stack electronics by the door and leave cash in the purse. Domestic or husband involvement. What we would expect if internal. Timeline wobble, alibi seams, prior distress in calls or notes, and access to the minute band. What we have. Departure at about 7:35 a.m. Discovery at about 5:52 p.m. Workplace routine that places him away unless he left and returned. The room's precision and the staged slider invite a known face scenario. The noon bracket is narrow enough that a midday return would matter. The bite swab will carry more weight than calendars. Unknown acquaintance or service visitor. What we would expect. A name on an appointment slip. A truck sighting. Packaging or tool trace. A knock, neighbors recall. What we have. No knock remembered. No curb vehicle recalled inside the band. A parcel scan at 11:02 well ahead of the thuds. The room does not read a workman's drift. False lead to decisive fact. The easy headline is burglary gone bad or a stranger's attempt that failed. The decisive fact set is staging versus stealing, plus close-in violence. Valuables left. Electronics posed. No front pry. Inward glass that reads after the fact. A bite that fixes proximity and contact. Accidents do not pose a room. Burglars do not bite. Negative signs that carry weight. No drawer rummage. No jewelry loss. No foreign vehicle in the minute band. No loud exit. Slider latch twisted without the metal scar a tool would leave. Absence here functions as a marker. The story was shaped for the camera that is not there. Era limits. Documented. It is 1997. Few residential cameras on this court. No sync home automation logs. Limited cellular footprints. Neighborhood sound remembered by ear, not by recorder. Minute marks and sealed biologicals will have to do the work that video would do now. Working window? Minutes, not hours. Between the quiet after the courier and the sprinklers at exactly noon. About 11:43 to 11:55 holds enough time to enter, shape a false room, fight at close range, and leave without a street signature. Rule of 2. Held. Physical. A sealed saliva swab from the shoulder bite and nail material recovered at autopsy. Context: a single raised female voice, three spaced thugs, and staged electronics against a house that does not read theft. A quilt where it should not be, and a bite that will either name a stranger or circle back to a familiar door. Forms checked, photos logged, a red pencil brace around 12 narrow minutes. Outside, sprinklers ticked on the hour while the refrigerator motor kept its steady hum. Block 3. From case file to cold case. Community canvas and timing passes. He walked the cul-de-sac, breezeways, and the path behind the fence line. The courier's handheld fixed the stoop scan at 11:02 a.m. A neighbor logged one raised female voice and three thuds near noon. Sprinklers clicked on at exactly 12 o'clock. The husband's call posted at 5:52 p.m. The working window held where it began, about 11:43 to 11:55. Minutes, not hours. What actually went into bags and boxes. He logged paper packaging and dated initials on every seal. Collected and sealed, the shoulder bite saliva swab, the torn blouse and belt, the unplugged and stacked electronics for ridge and touch work, slider glass from sill and patio, a fingernail crescent from the bathroom strainer, matched nail scrapings at autopsy, the mug with a dark ring, high-touch swabs from the hall switch and bedroom jamb. He photographed the twisted latch, the clean front jamb, the scuff arcs along the baseboard. Biologicals entered cold storage the first night under a single custody log. Hospital line and cause on paper. Paramedics logged no signs of life on scene. Autopsy recorded blunt force markers consistent with close-in struggle and compressive neck injury. Contusions aligned to the three thuds witnesses noted. No sexual assault kit findings that proved penetration. The blouse tear pattern read force, not accident. What did not give back in 1997? Latent prints on glossy plastics produced partial or smudged ridge fragments without individualization. The home had no cameras. The foundation office kept visitor sign-ins, but no badge gate captured midday movement. Early DNA work could profile, but with no suspect reference and no statewide hit path in place for this kind of bite swab, the tube was preserved rather than consumed. The slider glass did not hold footwear detail. The posed electronics had touch trace too mixed to carry weight then. Leads that ran and thinned. Pawn and second-hand checks produced nothing because nothing was taken. Patrol canvassed delivery routes and lawn crews. No curb vehicle fell inside the minute band. The courier confirmed he left at 11:03 with no sighting of a person on the walk. A reported stranger at the park gate timed out of the window. The room logic kept saying staging, while the paper file had no name to tie to the bite. Why it cooled, in plain terms. No video, no clear print, no vehicle sighting, and a tight band that required more than memory. The bite swab was recognized as high value and kept cold, but without a clean comparison, the file moved from active to waiting. The headline stayed easy: burglary or attempted assault, while the details kept pointing to a shaped room and a close-known hand. Chain of custody and condition on the shelf. Annual audits logged seals intact, labels legible, freezer temperatures within range. The bite swab and nail sets remained boxed and logged under one custody number. The photo set linked each bag to a sketch and scale. Reboxing in 2013 under evidence barcoding showed no unnecessary openings. Negatives stayed clean. Succession. One set of hands after another. 1997. Detective Colin Mercer opened, logged, and sealed. 2004. Sergeant Dana Krieger audited, noted labels and temperatures within range. 2013. CSU reboxed, barcoded, confirmed seal lineage. 2021. District Attorney's cold case triage underlined biologicals viable and flagged the file for modern work. Working window, minutes, not hours. The spine did not shift. About 11:43 to 11:55 to enter, stage, fight at close range, and leave without a street signature. Rule of 2, still in place. Physical, a sealed bite saliva swab and paired nail material with visible tissue. Context, a single raised female voice. 3 thuds around noon and valuables left in a room that reads performance, not theft. One narrow tube from a shoulder bite held in a cold box for the day the file would finally listen. Boxes labeled, seals dated, and a red pencil brace over 12 minutes on a clipboard. Outside, the refrigerator motor kept its steady hum while the sprinklers ticked off on schedule and the street forgot. Block 4. Technicals and Breakthrough. Why the file moved now. In 2023, the District Attorney's Cold Case Unit triaged the Whitmore file and marked it genealogically viable. He noted a preserved shoulder bite swab with continuous chain of custody, paper-bagged scene items, and a minute bracket tight enough to test against modern timelines. A memorandum between the county and the state lab covered scope and any genealogical use. One custody log followed freezer pulls, repack, and sealed courier to the lab. Reopen kit under clean protocol. He logged item order, fresh gloves per item, bench swabs before and after, negatives recorded. The bite tube thawed clear, label legible, seal intact. The blouse and belt entered under separate cards. Tape lifts from the slider frame and latent kits from the stacked electronics were reprocessed with current chemistry. All returns went back to cold with dated initials. First pass, STR and database reality. STR, short tandem repeats. The standard DNA test that examines short repeating markers like a genetic fingerprint. The bite swab produced a single source male STR profile with full core loci. CODIS, Combined DNA Index System, returned no hit, which only said the donor was not in the database. Low template tries from secondary items stayed partial and were logged as supportive only. SMP turn for leads, not proof. He authorized a second extraction from the bite swab to build a low-input SNP library. Call rate held in the low 90s. Mixture assessment supported a single male. FGG, Forensic Genetic Genealogy. Investigators compare crime scene DNA to open genealogy databases and build a family tree down to a candidate. Upload stayed inside opt-in law enforcement portals with full audit timestamps. Portal access was logged to the minute. Tree build with a minute filter. Cousin-level matches anchored to a Midwestern cluster whose public records and obituaries intersected suburban Chicago. Age and sex gates reduced the set to males who would have been between 20 and 40 in 1997. Geography pushed the shortlist toward men with routine presence on West 75th Street in the lunch hour. The minute filter tightened again. Anyone who could stand inside about 11:43 to 11:55 and leave without a street signature. The tree's spine resolved toward a paternal line that included the surname Whitmore. The obvious name was already in the file. Microtrace and scene logic. Second pass. He reread the slider shards under polarized light. Fracture vectors favored inward break after contact, not a primary entry burst. The twisted latch showed deformation without tool scarring. The unplugged electronics carried parallel wipe striations along cable jackets as if posed for a photograph. The blouse tear pattern and bruise geometry matched short, close-in force, not a room-wide chase. None of these traits named a person alone. Together they reinforced what the minutes said. Contact first, staging second. Eliminations and controls. Elimination swabs from first responders and lab staff did not match. The bite profile reproduced across independent extracts. Bench blanks and reagent negatives stayed clean. Seal photos from 1997, 2005, 2012, and 2023 matched labels with no unnecessary openings. Integrity held. Shortlist deliverable. The FGG scaffold and minute gates yielded a shortlist of 1 with intimate access, motive pressure, and the ability to stand in the 12-minute band without a street-level mark. The package to investigators included the tree diagram, audit log, a timed presence matrix, and a plan to obtain a lawful discard from the candidate for STR comparison to the bite profile. Lawful discard plan. Clean and public. He mapped ordinary routines and underlined acceptable targets without entering private space. A bottle cap from curbside recycling on pickup morning. A straw from a food court bin. A napkin from a pharmacy insert. A cigarette from a library urn. Each recovery to be photographed before and after. Lifted with fresh gloves, bagged in paper, sealed with date and initials, and taken direct to the vault. Confirmatory buckle would follow only after a clean STR match and by court order. Working window. Application. He kept the spine where the file began. Surveillance would hinge on the same bracket, about 11:43 to 11:55. while discard teams rode the candidates' routine stops. A freezer tube from 1997 that still spoke in full STR, and a family tree that finally gave the minutes a path to a name, audit lines, clean negatives, and a red pencil brace around 12 narrow minutes on a worksheet. Outside, the sprinklers on West 75th still ticked on the hour, while the lab's quiet work opened a door the scene had shut for years. Block 5. Identification, confirmation, arrest. Lawful discard. 3 names to 1. He mapped the shortlist to ordinary routines and waited on public discard. Candidate 1, the neighbor's midday visitor, left a straw in a mall food court bin at about 1:06 p.m. Photographed before and after, lifted with fresh gloves, sealed in paper, logged to vault. STR did not match the bite donor. The vendor had already been timed out of the minute band. On January 25, 2024, at about 6:18 a.m., the husband, Evan Whitmore, rolled a curbside recycling cart to the street. A holder photographed the cart in place, the bin lid, and the bottle rack, lifted a bottle cap with fresh gloves, sealed a paper sack with date and initials, and logged the chain straight to the vault. The custody line stayed continuous from curb to freezer. STR, bite to discard. The lab compared the autosomal STR profile from the 1997 shoulder bite to the 2024 bottle cap profile. All core loci matched with no unexplained dropout. Random match probability returned at about 1 in 5 quintillions on the relevant population set. The likelihood ratio exceeded 10 to the 18th against an unrelated person. Independent re-extractions reproduced the result. Negatives stayed clean. Touch DNA. Supportive, not weight. Tape lifts from the twisted slider latch and from a cable jacket in the stacked electronics set produced partial male profiles with alleles concordant to the bite donor. Analysts logged them as corroborative only, not used for statistics. Court-authorized buckle. Confirmation. With the discard match in hand, detectives obtained a warrant. On February 8, 2024, at about 9:14 a.m., Evan Whitmore provided buckle swabs under order at the county office. The STR profile matched the bite donor at all loci with the same statistical weight. A second laboratory confirmed on a blind packet. Reports logged RMP and LR and marked the identification as confirmed. Corroboration, access, motive, minutes. Foundation calendars and a receptionist's daybook showed Evan signing out late morning on April 3, 1997, for an unplanned errand. The drive time to West 75th Street fit the bracket. A colleague in events later provided a statement documenting a months-long relationship with Evan, supported by dated notes and a program from a donor gala marked in her hand. In post-Miranda interview, he said, "She was about to tell it and wreck everything." The room logic held. Valuables left, electronics posed. Inward glass that read after contact. The minute band never moved. About 11:43 to 11:55 to enter a familiar home, stage a false break, fight at close range, and leave without a street signature. Rule of 2 held on paper. Full STR identification as physical proof, and a timed presence matrix plus staging as context. Arrest. Ordinary place, ordinary hour. On March 12, 2024, at about 8:03 a.m., detectives arrested Evan Whitmore in a grocery parking lot off Ogden Avenue. Morning air cool. HVAC units droned. A shopping cart's front wheel clicked in a slow rhythm. He glanced once toward the curb carts, set a travel mug on the roof, and the lid trembled. Miranda was given and recorded. Statement. His words. In a recorded interview post-Miranda, he said, "I could not let it get out." No further comment followed. The statement logged alongside the relationship documentation and the sign-out entry. Closure, procedure to paper. FGG stayed a lead lane on paper. FGG was a lead. Proof came from discard, STR, buckle. Chain of custody entries remained intact from the 1997 freezer tube to the 2024 confirmatory samples. Seals dated and initialed. No unnecessary openings. The name on the warrant finally aligned with the 12 narrow minutes on the clock. Working window, minutes, not hours. The spine stayed tight. about 11:43 to 11:55. Entry, close-in violence, quick stage, clean exit. A bite sealed in 1997 and a bottle cap from an ordinary curb morning closed the distance between a quiet kitchen and a name on a charge sheet. Typed loci, seal numbers, and a warrant return stamped to the minute. Outside, sprinklers along West 75th kept their noon rhythm while the refrigerator hummed in a room that finally had a voice. Legal and context. Reconstruction draws solely on preserved scene materials, custody logs, and modern laboratory reports. Genealogy remained a lead only, while identification rested on lawful discard, STR comparison, and a court-authorized buckle.